Welcome to Thoughts Off the Stem. Thank you for joining the sesh with me, Justin Barone. I hope you're having a good day, good week, good month, good year. I hope life's being good to you is what I'm saying. Are you an overthinker? Because I'm an overthinker. And I kind of hate it. I don't know how you feel about it, but I kind of dislike it quite a bit, actually. Because I overthink stupid shit. I overthink everything. If I do something, I immediately start thinking of like all the other stuff that I think would relate to the thing that I'm doing, right? Do you ever do that? I think for overthinkers, especially people that have a hard time like falling asleep at night and their brain is racing. I luckily don't have that issue, thank God. But I did when I was younger, and when I had that issue, weed was the answer. I would just smoke some weed, and then that would help shut off the voices, and the next thing you know, I'd be asleep. But I do find that no matter what I do now, I overthink everything, dude. I'm like 50 steps ahead of myself when I really shouldn't be. Like, I'll start a new job, and I'll think about what it would be like in the long term, about how that job's going to turn out, all the pitfalls that I'm going to have. Like, that's a problem, you know? It also makes me wonder, like, if you're an overthinker and, what's it called? Like, evolution is a thing and Darwin was right. How did overthinkers make it this far? Like, how is that still a thing? Because if you're an overthinker, okay, just picture this for a second. Just bear with me here. If you're a caveman and you're an overthinking caveman, okay, and there's some kind of predator after you, is there not like a pretty good chance that if you're an overthinker, you're going to get eaten because you had to take time and you overthought the ways to elude or kill, you know? Because for an overthinker, no matter what the scenario is, you always think there's something better or something different that you could have done to, better affect whatever the situation is. And then you get worry. And then when the worry packs on and your brain just starts going and going and going, that's it. Like, you're overwhelmed. It's almost like you can freeze whenever anything's happening because your brain is just thinking of the possibilities and going through it and like over it. And you never actually get to an end result because you can't stop thinking. But then the even harder part for an overthinker is that if you're trying to get over the overthinking, right, that becomes a trigger for overthinking. No? Do you know what I'm saying? Overthinkers know what I'm saying. Because I recognize that I'm an overthinker. I have people in my life that tell me all the time, like, hey, you're an overthinker. You got to stop overthinking it. You just got to do it. So I was thinking about this earlier this week. I remember when I was a kid and it seemed like things like if you went to school, I never really had days where I was like, I don't want to go to school until I got older. But when I was in elementary school, it was just that's what you did. All your friends were there. You were excited to go see them. That's what the day was. And if you didn't go to school, you'd miss out on something cool and whatever. So you never really thought about it. You just did it. Then as like high school starts to come around and as you get older and things start to, your brain starts to develop and whatever, you start to overthink, like, I don't want to do this. I want to do this instead. And like, how do I do this? And how do I do that? And then you get caught in this like forever cycle of trying to change whatever's happening around you, but you never actually end up enacting any of the change. You just sit there thinking. So it's like you're paralyzed in thought. Does anybody know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it feels to me. And I've started to notice that this level of like overthinking is starting to creep back into my life. And there's got to be a bunch of different factors for it. But, where was I going with this? If you're an overthinker, are you not worried? Like, I'm worried that like something, that something bad's going to happen, that I'm never going to actually realize whatever my goal is or whatever I'm trying to do because I'm too busy overthinking every little minuscule step of what could or may or may not happen. It's a ridiculous cycle. And I noticed that this didn't start to happen until like maybe a year ago. Again, like it popped up, when I was younger. Like I said, it happened a few times. But then as you get older, I feel like if you're not where you want to be, that overthinking, that stimulus starts to happen repeatedly and like on a heavier level. No? Overthinking's a bitch, dude. Which is like I said, it's why it surprises me that there's anybody that's an overthinker still around, because like if Darwin's theory of evolution is right, we should have been killed off a long time ago. Like panthers, see, tigers and lions should have got us. Because I feel like a lot of us would be like frozen in fear of like what could happen. Overthinkers, I don't know about you, but it seems like the people that I've met that overthink are like stuck because they overthink. And I'm trying to absolve myself of the overthinking part, but it doesn't work because then I end up concentrating on the overthinking. And then the overthinking becomes overthinking about overthinking, which triggers my brain to overthink. You know what I'm saying? That's where like I feel like I'm at with this overthinking thing. It's really frustrating, dude. I know there's other people out there, and like meditation helps that. Focus, like you really have to pay attention. It's like do you ever have those arguments in your head where you're arguing with nobody, or you're arguing with like a friend or a coworker, and you're having this argument that like they don't know that you're having, and then you're pissed off at them because you've had this entire back and forth in your head, but they're unaware of it. That's overthinking to me, or a big part of it, because your brain just keeps going through the cycle of stuff that could happen, and you're never really preparing for it. You're just worrying about it, and you're just constantly going around in a circle of worry and like self-reflection, but you never get, like I said, an end result, which is super frustrating, dude, because you really just want to be able to put that away and then achieve the result that you're looking for. But instead, you start worrying about why the sun is fucking not setting right. You start worrying about whether 3i Atlas is going to bomb us. Like, it's just any possible weirdness that can seep into your brain does. And then each little moment of that seepage ends up taking you down a new branch of overthinking. Drives me nuts, man. I couldn't imagine trying to fall asleep and being an overthinker and not being able to fall asleep. That would drive me nuts. I sleep well, luckily. But again, I think that's because like I smoke weed. So when I'm smoking weed, I don't tend to have a hard time falling asleep. If I'm not smoking weed, what I did notice was that it would take me a little longer, but I would still I would still get to sleep. There's very few days now as I'm older where I can't fall asleep, or it takes me hours and hours and I'm just tossing and turning. That happened more when I was a kid. But I also noticed maybe it's because I'm, in my 40s and my energy levels are just like getting to be old man at this point. Imagine being an overthinker, but you're also like a soldier. Or let's say you're an overthinker and like, dude, we've been watching a lot of Gordon Ramsay, like Hell's Kitchen, my daughters and I constantly think to myself, like, I could never do this show. It's not so much like the berating of people, it's the pace. I would be overthinking every step. I'd be like, that's too much salt, that's too much garlic, that's too much of this, that's too much of that. Like, I'd be so worried about everything that's happening that like whatever I made would just be bland or oversalted. That'd be it. Cause I'd be like, that's the easiest, Overthinking's like a real problem. I was actually talking to a guy the other day about overthinking, and I was saying that, a lot of what I do in my personal life is that if I want to achieve something, I tend to think it through, but then it absorbs me. It becomes everything that I can think about all of the time, and then I recognize that happens and I don't want to do that. So then I try to stop doing it, but then, like I said earlier, I end up just overthinking about the overthinking. And then I become stagnant and I become worried about it. And then because I'm competitive with myself, I get hard on myself, right? So then like mentally, I just go after myself. And when I was growing up, it was okay to be in your head being like, listen, you can do better. Fuck you, dude. You suck, blah, blah. Because that would like, that negative speech to yourself would propel you to achieve the next thing. I also played a lot of sports, and back then, your coaches weren't nice. Like, they weren't trying to tell you, okay, you did a good job, but you could do this better. If you screwed up, there was no good job. They would just come at you and be like, what are you doing? What the fuck was that? Why would you do that? Like, I remember it was the last game of basketball we were going to play in our senior year. And like, I was pretty decent, and I took a short jumper when I probably should have just done a layup because I mistimed how much time was left in the game and on the clock. So I took the shot. I missed. Luckily, we had a center that was really good. So the other team got the rebound, ran down to the other end of the court, and our center ended up stuffing the guy that took the shot. So they didn't score another basket, and we won by like 1 or 2 points, right? My coach was so pissed that I took that shot because he's like, what are you doing? That's a low percentage shot. But for me, it's not a low percentage shot. Then every time I played basketball after that, that was in my head. So every time I was going to go take a shot, even if I was just playing for fun, that conversation would ring out in my head, and I would second guess what I was doing. When up until that point, I never really second guessed what I was doing because I had skills. You know what I'm saying? Overthinking is a motherfucker, dude. It'll wreck you. Overthinking can wreck you. And it surprises me that history and the evolution of people haven't weeded out more overthinkers. I'm trying to think of like a scenario where overthinking is actually good and beneficial for you, but I really can't. Like, I feel like in life, a lot of the time you can plan, you can be defensive, you can, sort of set yourself some goals and then follow your plan. But overthinking can like so quickly derail that plan. You know what I mean? And if you're faced with like big time adversity, like if you're in World War II and you're trying to stop Hitler from invading Poland, like it's probably not a good time to think about like, well, what does this mean? Like you should probably just shut that off and start shooting. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, you're just going to get like if you're in the woods and you're camping and you've like thought, you're an overthinker and you're worried about like critters and bears coming into your campsite and messing with you. Like, if the bear comes into your campsite, it's probably not the best idea to sit around thinking about, like, how do I get rid of this bear? What should I do? Should I scream at the bear? Should I run from the bear? Should I shoot the bear? Should I stab the bear? By the time you've had that second thought, like, you're dead. Your ass is in that bear's mouth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, overthinking's not helpful. Imagine being an astronaut and you're an overthinker. Like, if you're in space and you have nothing but time and space to think about all the stuff that's happening, and like you're off the planet and all the things that could go wrong while you're gone. Think about that, dude. See? Overthinking right there. Like, you're an astronaut, you're on the space station, you know the volatility of society and the world that's around us right now. There's a possibility that if you go to that space station and you're up there and you're thinking about all the fun stuff that you're going to do when you get back, that there may not be anything to get back to. Just saying, based on how the world's going, I don't actually think that's going to happen. But imagine that, like you're up there just thinking about all this stuff. And then you're like, yes, I can't wait to get out. And then you look down at the earth and you're like, oh my God, it's so like precious. And we're just in the middle of this vast universe of anything can happen. And then you start, I don't think you could be a spaceman and overthink, because like, I think you'd just be riddled with fear and you'd be stuck. Like you'd be frozen with fear the whole time you're out there, dude. Like I'd be thinking of all the shit. Like, what if an asteroid hit us? What if 3i Atlas actually is an alien and it decides to just consume everything around it? What if Trump hits the button? What if Putin hits the button? What if nuclear war happens and we get to watch our home get destroyed? Like, that's my brain would go down that rabbit hole of crazy in a matter of seconds. Like, the first day would probably be okay because you're getting like accustomed to, being around and being in that area in isolation kind of. I know there's other people there, but there's like 7 of you, So the first day or the first couple days would be okay. But then that second you have some solitude and you're just sitting there thinking, dude, your brain could play some serious games on you. All you'd think about is like, I know what I would do. I would go through all of the crazy. I'd go through, oh my God, what happens if this doesn't work? What happens if oxygen goes? What happens if like the spaceship just decides to blow up? Like what happens if everybody starts war on Earth and we have to watch it play out and then we're stuck up here and like our demise is imminent? You know, that'd be terrifying, dude. I think overthinking leads to terror. I think it's just people's way of scaring themselves into doing nothing and trying to stay protected. It's fucking crazy to me. It drives me nuts though, because I don't want to overthink. Like, I want to try and I don't overthink all the time, but I notice that when I'm stressed out or when I'm hyper focused on trying to achieve something, or if I really want something to happen, that's when I really overthink, because I overthink all of the possibilities. Like if I start a new job, initially what happens is I think, okay, this could be a fun job. And then I have like a day or two at the job. And then I start thinking about the long-term value of the job and whether or not I can stick around, you know, and tough it out, or whether it's going to work for me. And then I get emotionally invested. So I start thinking about what the next few years looks like. And then after I've exhausted that sort of overthinking pathway, then I come back to, well, what are the problems? And then I start identifying the issues and the problems that I see, or the potential issues and problems that I think will go. And then I end up creating this like, I end up creating this, not, I don't know if it's negative, but it's definitely detrimental to moving forward. Concept that something bad is going to happen, or that I'm going to stop liking this, or I'm going to not want to do that, or whatever. I get into my own head super easy. And I think that overthinkers, that's what they do. They sort of live in their own head and they start coming up with their own conclusions about what the possibilities are, as opposed to just letting like life unfold and figuring out and letting the possibilities happen. I'm really not good at like the unknown. Like I'm not good at sitting around and waiting, which I think is a big part of it too. Like if I have time and I'm waiting for something to happen, I get fidgety. I don't even have ADD. Everybody thinks I have ADD, but I don't even have ADD. And I find that once I just kind of sit back and let my brain go, and I have idle time, it's like the old saying, like idle hands, you know, if you have idle hands, you're going to get up to no good. And I feel like anytime I'm waiting or something, that's what happens. I get idle brain and then my brain goes, let's see how I can freak myself out today, you know, and then you start freaking yourself out and just like trying to find every possible way you can to trick yourself into thinking that everything's going to be bad. So yeah, I try really hard not to overthink things, but then, like I said, you end up in a cycle of overthinking the overthinking. I find that quiet, like I need some time before I go to bed and stuff. I need some quiet time where I can sit with my thoughts and then tell myself what directly is a good thought and a bad thought. I've heard that meditation works really well for that, so that you can focus and you can cut out the noise. Over the years, I've tried meditation. I've tried some different versions of it, not for long periods of time, but I do notice that if you do it for like 5 days, let's say, you end up being able to cut out the noise and the surrounding clutter and letting things drift in and out of your mind, right? And that really helped my overthinking, because once you learn how to let a thought pass through you, then it doesn't get caught in the overthinking web. So that's always pretty good. That's a good way to handle it, I think. It's hard though. It takes a lot of practice, and you can't just do it like sometimes. And the problem with meditation is you're putting yourself in, at the beginning, a position where you are essentially left with your own thoughts, and then you initially start overthinking like crazy. And you have to, but that's kind of the process, right? You learn not to listen to the thoughts. Because I think at this point, we all know that your brain will trick you. Your brain will try and tell you everything is horrible or everything is great when it may not be that way. So you have to kind of be aware that your brain is a bit of a jester that's trying to mess with your psyche, mess with your attitude, your brain's a liar. That's what I'm saying. So try to give yourself a little bit of leeway when you overthink. But yeah, overthinking's a bitch, dude. And I think that you have to learn to also be able to change your thought, and it's a conscious moment. So like when you have these overthinking thoughts that kind of are negative or push you in one direction, you have to consciously recognize that and be like, okay, I'm not thinking about that, and actually focus on not thinking about that, But if you're out there overthinking and worried about it and it's causing you anxiety, don't worry. There's a lot of people out there. Just take it one step at a time. Like, I would definitely say that maybe the first step you should take is try to meditate, because if you get like an app like Headspace or something like that, it can really take you through the steps of how to focus through the meditation. And it really does help you try to learn how to let the thoughts just like flow through you without getting stuck. It's a good way to go. Yeah. But if you're an overthinker and you have a really hard time with it, I feel for you, man. I really do. I wouldn't actually suggest weed as a way to stop overthinking, because the problem with that is that weed a lot of the time will make you think more about shit that like you really don't need to think about. It's not a necessity, and it could take you down like these really weird rabbit holes. And it's better to use weed to think like about the possibilities once you have the overthinking under control. The other part of trying to get past overthinking is just doing. So when you start to overthink something, like let's say, for example, you want to start a new exercise routine. A lot of people overthink that. A lot of people get into their own head about those things, and they kind of they cut themselves short before they even like attempt it. So what I would suggest, and also exercise helps too. I guess that's why I brought it up. But if you're, let's say, getting a gym membership, you get a gym membership and then it's a couple days before you go. Don't sit there the whole time worrying about what the workout's going to be like. Just go do it. Like, just try your best to clear your mind and just take the action and don't have the thought about it. Because as kids, that's what we were like. We would just, if we thought something was good or fun or beneficial, we would just do it. We never really put a lot of thought into it. You got to kind of get back to that too. Also, exercise will help your brain better function through those moments of overthinking. So, yeah, that's my recommendation. If you're an overthinker, physically exert yourself in whatever way you can without overdoing it, so that your body and your mind are exhausted. Because if your mind's exhausted and your body's exhausted, your mind has no choice but to like fade all the thoughts away and just relax and recoup, right? So just physical exercise is a big deal. Forgetting the thought is a big deal, and also try meditating if you can. If you can't sleep, there's a bunch of sleep aids. Talk to your doctor. Yeah. But if you're an overthinker, I feel you. I understand what you're going through. I hope you could get past it. Yeah. Stay away from bears. Don't let a bear get you. Don't overthink fighting a bear. If a bear comes, I don't even know. If it's a black bear, curl up and play dead or get really big and scream. If it's a grizzly bear, well, it was nice knowing you. I'll see you in the afterlife. But yeah, those are my thoughts off the stem for this week. I hope you enjoyed the sesh. I hope you come back next week with me, Justin Barone, on Thoughts Off the Stem. Don't forget to visit tots420.com. And until next time, keep your lids low, baby.